up there.
All chalk today.
Let's start with a history lesson. Anybody know why we say chalk? I'll give you bonus points if you do. This goes back 130 years. I know this from Kornheiser. Horse racing betting in the old days, favorites had odds going up and down, up and down. They'd have to erase and then rewrite them. Poof, all on a chalkboard. That's where the chalk comes from. Now there are no chalkboards except for Woody Page. But I tell you this because we have 4-1 seeds. They call it chalk. Auburn got here with Joe Nye, the self-healing guy. When Broom went down, were they going to, the dream go up in smoke? Poof. No, he came back, had that cool rebound. Title chances back on for Auburn. Houston, they're a boa constrictor of a defense, squeezing the life out of Tennessee. Florida had the comeback. Walter Clayton Jr., a junior Steph Curry heater. And Duke, so surgical, cruise control, mission possible for this championship. So I ask you, national panel, most impressive this weekend of those 4-1 seeds around the horn, George Sedano.
Tony, to me, it's Duke. They're the most complete team when you watch them. They did get tested just a tad, particularly at the end of that Arizona game. But outside of that, they have absolutely annihilated the competition. And Cooper Flagg is obviously the marquee here, or the name on the marquee. But you look at everybody else, whether it's Malawach, Sion James, Con Knippel, Proctor, etc. All those guys fit perfectly. They play any kind of style of basketball you want. You want to go up tempo? They're good. You want to get it in the mud a little bit? They're fine, and they'll have to do that in their next matchup against Houston. But to me, this is Duke's tournament to lose.
Monica McNutt, around the horn to you.
It's all right. Well, George set it up because I'm looking at those Houston Cougars. Something about that defense for me, Tone. I mean, they held Tennessee to 15 and 35 points respectively in the two halves. Like, this defense is absolutely suffocating. And when you look at it, they've been able to defend this way all season long. And you go back to a regular season contest for them versus Kansas. They had to come back, win in overtime. And then you go through games in the tournament where they have been tested. Gonzaga, Purdue, but they keep finding ways to win. I just really think that this team is probably being overlooked a little bit, especially in this next matchup, because they are a little bit smaller. But that defense has intensity that I think is going to warrant
so
some
most
respect.
Impressive Houston. And in the regular season, their losses, nearly all of them were just in overtime. They only have one regulation loss this season. David Dennis Jr. around the horn to you.
Sorry, McNutt. I got to go with my guy George here in Duke and the Blue Devils and what they're doing. They're a plus 94 so far while scoring 90 points. We have not seen that since 2008 in the NCAA tournament. And, of course, you have Flagg leading the charge, leading in points, rebounds, and assists going into the Final Four. But Malawach, what he is doing defensively, he's got more blocks than shots made against him. This team is a defensive monster. They get a lot of attention for the dunks, the way they fly around the court, but they have length and they have just as much defense as anybody left in the tournament.
That's two for Duke, most impressive. Emily Kaplan, around the horn to you.
I think the most impressive thing about Duke is that they've had this metamorphosis from, like, everybody's villain to someone that's so likable that three of us are really happy talking about them. I think, George mentioned they're kind of tested against Arizona, but I don't think they've really been tested at all, and that's so impressive. They are so young. Cooper Flagg should be a high school senior right now. Their freshmen have combined to play more than 400 minutes in this tournament. Hembo did the math. All the freshmen on all the three other Final Four teams, less than 200 minutes combined. And we know Cooper Flagg probably would be an impact player in the NBA tomorrow. They've got other guys that would be in the NBA, but it's the way they come together as a team that's so impressive. The first 4 games, they won by double digits in 3 of them. And then against Alabama, they showed they had a top 5 defense. That is impressive.
All right. So, that youth, especially in the front court, we're going to see the exact opposite in this matchup against Houston, because Houston is a more veteran team. Nobody tempted to even acknowledge the SEC in this conversation about Final Four teams? Sedano, please go ahead.
No, you know why? Because they're the villains now. It's not Duke anymore. The SEC's the villains. That's what happens when you get 14 teams in the tournament, and all we hear about is how great the SEC was. Well, look, they've got 2 teams in the Final Four. First time for them in their conference history, they're going to have 2 teams face each other in the Final Four. Congratulations to the SEC. The ACC has done that 4 times, by the way.
David Dennis Jr.
George, we were so close. I was agreeing with everything. A little bit too much dip on the chip right now. We're talking about Duke, the Duke Blue Devils. One season of SEC being dominant does not undo the years and years and decades of Duke being the Duke Blue Devils. They are the villains, and as more eyes get on the Final Four and national championship, that villainy, the way that people feel about them, will come right back, storming back as we talk about them more.
Yeah, I agree with David Dennis on this one, but and I also would add, I think the SEC at large is showing that the investment is real in an era of collectives and NIL. You got to put your money where your mouth is to support your programs.
Did you just give us a Dennis David Dennis? I love it. I love it. That's literally going around the horn of the name.
I'll take it.
Everybody's got an opinion on 4-1 seeds, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing or a transfer portal thing. Monica, I want to get your read on it.
Well, Tony, to me, it's just cool. Like, I'm okay with it. It doesn't have me jumping up and down in enthusiasm, but I'm not mad at it either. In honesty, if we look at it, yeah, Cinderellas are great, but we've never actually had a Cinderella win a national championship. We've had 4 8 seeds get to the national championship, and much to my chagrin, the 1985 Villanova Wildcats beat my Georgetown Hoyas. But other than that, the excitement is getting to the Final Four, and then that game gets a little bit wonky. So tonight, this weekend, if we got the Clash of the Titans, sign me up.
Dennis Jr.
Yeah, Monica McNutt, I am absolutely with you on this one, too. We are setting up for a heavyweight battle going forward. You have the SEC, one of the most dominant conferences we've ever seen in basketball, 2 of the teams facing off. And then you have, on the other side, 2 teams who have got 15-plus game winning streaks going into the Final Four. We haven't seen that this century. So we can talk about not having some of these Cinderella teams at the beginning, but we're gearing up for 3 heavyweight basketball games that could be all-timers.
Emily Kaplan.
Yeah, I think McNutt Monica alluded to it in her last answer, the NIL word. Once we dove in, yeah, you like that one, Monica? Once we dove in full on, going away from amateurism and into capitalism, there was always going to be this consolidation of blue bloods. And I think we're seeing it in the college football playoff too. I don't necessarily think that's a bad team because these teams are so good. This is the best basketball we are prepared to see in the NCAA tournament. KenPom does his rankings over the last decade. 4 of the top 6 teams of the last decade are in this Final Four now. The other 2024 UConn and 2021 Gonzaga. So being able to see these guys who were the best teams all season long, held the #1 ranking at some point, that's a treat to basketball fans because it's the best on best and the best the sport has to offer.
So you do put a little something into this as a transfer portal thing. I may have thought that originally, but then I was doing the research today, and 2 years ago, you'll remember, there wasn't a 1 seed, a 2 seed, or a 3 seed in the Final Four. And, of course, that's in the transfer portal era. George Sedano, to you.
Well, to Kaplan Emily's point, Tone, what I would add is that we've seen the audience speak for itself, okay? Forget about what we think in the media. The audience tells us what they think. When George Mason, as they were Cinderellaing their way through the tournament, every time you compared that run to the previous run, the ratings got lower and lower because people want name brands. People know what they want. And when you look at that one that you mentioned a moment ago, where you had UConn win against San Diego State, Miami, FAU, etc., that was the lowest rated Final Four in the history of the sport. So name brands matter at this point, and blue bloods matter.
Look at you caring about the ratings, George Sedano. Does that really affect how you watch the game at home? Or are you like, well, people are watching, so I'm going to... No, you were already watching.
No, it doesn't affect me, but we get too caught up in what we think as opposed to what the general audience
I'll give you the last
thinks,
word on this.
and that's my point.
Well, I think to your point, Tone, about the emergence of the transfer portal combined with collectives in this new NIL space, you had to give it a couple years to get it revved up. And so I think that's what we're seeing now. Often the Cinderellas are a byproduct of senior-laden teams that have stayed and knock off young freshmen at some of the blue bloods. Well, those seniors are transferring to the blue bloods to get it done. And so now it's all this big melting pot, and we got the best.
That's where David Dennis Jr.
Yeah, let's not totally erase some of these Cinderella teams. That'd be remiss not to mention some of the beauty that comes when they'll say a mid-major makes a long run. So there's a good mix to be had when you have the powerhouse and you have some of these Cinderella.
4 number ones has happened
sort of that
4 times before in the women's bracket, and we'll get to that. Buy or sell. South Carolina closes like a DMV at lunch. They just turned off Duke's offense in the 4th quarter. And the Gamecocks, 5th straight Final Four. UCLA, do you see worry? No worry. Allayed, poise, and perseverance in putting away LSU. What are you buying from this half of a Final Four 2-1 seeds? Monica McNutt around the horn to you.
Well, Tony, I'm buying both of these teams, but for different reasons. I think Lauren Betts is dynamic. I mean, that's Defensive Player of the Year in their conference. She had 17 points in this ball game, and there was a poise about the Bruins that had not seen in years past, getting them to their first Final Four. But on the other end, 5 straight Final Fours now for Dawn Staley and company, and each of her veterans, so to speak, her upperclassmen poised with experience. I mean, that game really went down to the last 2 minutes. And so I think this is going to be, like we talked about in the men's bracket, a clash of the Titans.
But did you say you're buying both these teams? Of course you're buying.
I'm
You
buying
have two
both,
number one
Tony.
teams that made the Final
Give me
Four.
both.
David
Give me all-
Dennis Jr. around the horn to you.
I'm buying South Carolina as just unstoppable dynastic force, and the way that they are doing it this season it's almost more impressive than what they did last year. Last year they only trailed by about a minute for the entirety of the tournament. This year they're being challenged more, they're being scrappy, they've been trailing for about 36 minutes. They've been coming back, and really you have to play perfect basketball against them. That game changed in a few minutes in the second quarter, and they won a 14-4 run, and they never really quite looked back. You have to play 40 perfect minutes to beat them. That's a testament to Dawn Staley and the
But again, you're telling me you're buying. Yes, no kidding. You're buying the number one team. What are you buying from these
question.
runs? Emily Kaplan, please.
Okay, let me try this. I am buying that Dawn Staley is the best coach in college basketball right now. She does not have the talent that she's had in years past. She's admitted from here on out, it's not going to be pretty, but they keep finding ways. And that Duke team they beat, that's like a nasty brand of basketball they play. It was like they punched a ticket to the Sweet 16 by winning a game 45-38, but they found a way, and that's why I'm buying Dawn Staley.
I hear you. Again, this is not a news breaker either. I'm not breaking news here on this show. Dawn Staley's been to 5 straight Final Fours. Yes, she's the best coach in America.
Tone.
George Sedano around the horse to you.
Tone.
What is happening?
Here's what I'd be buying. If you were telling a story, this would be the perfect matchup. You've got one team who's making their first Final Four in the NCAA era in UCLA, okay? And you've got this team, this juggernaut like South Carolina, who's done it so many times. I think the matchup is a perfect story to tell. And I would also buy UCLA winning this, Tony, because of Lauren Betts. Not only her defensive prowess, but I think she's the best pivot player
They're winning the
in the
tournament,
sport.
right?
You
They're
can
not
make the
matching
argument.
up at this moment, but winning the tournament. I hear what you're saying. Guys, this is not
Yeah,
Frank Isola giving away points for free like it's candy. This is not Courtney Cronin, who happens to have the most perfect paper toss I've ever seen. I was envious watching that. No, you get your mutes. Let's go around the horn. Torpedo bat story. This blew our minds this weekend. Have we never thought of this? Change the shape of the bat? Look at this. Yankees are mashing like almost no team to start a season ever before. Chisholm, Wells, Volpe among those using the new bat. Aaron Judge not. He's still Judge. But it all crystallized on Saturday when first 3 pitches they saw went for home runs and 9 home runs in the game. Did the Yankees hacking? MLB says it's legal within the rules. Opposing players, like Brewers closer Trevor McGill, telling the New York Post, it's genius, but it's terrible. Bush League. Baseball won't do anything, though, because it's the Yankees. Fans are going crazy. They're having fun with it. Look at the difference in bats again. What do we have here, George? Genius, Bush League, a hack, or cheating?
Tony, I'm buying it's genius. It's within the rules, okay? Most guys, or a number of those guys, were hitting the ball on the label, so why not make the bat a little different where they can make contact on the thicker part of the bat? It makes all the sense in the world. Everyone's just complaining because they didn't think of it first.
Emily Kaplan?
Tony, I'm sure you would buy that Courtney Cronin was using a torpedo bat in some of those paper tosses. And also, I would think, you have a brother who's a rocket scientist. Considering you have a brother who's a rocket scientist, you know everyone has access to science, so why not use it? A couple guys were using this in spring training, not on the Yankees, and a lot of teams are putting in orders now to buy it, so it's not just one team. Everyone's getting the
David
access
Dennis
now.
Jr.?
I'm selling the way that this sort of matriculated on social media and the way the misinformation spread. You have them hitting a bunch of home runs, a couple of tweets go out about the bats, and all of a sudden they're the 2025 version of the Black Sox. It just takes a little bit of time to understand that this is all legal, that other teams have tried it, other players have tried it, and you'll probably see more people try to copycat. The Yankees just figured something out that a lot of people have not been able to figure out so far.
And Monica McNutt.
I find this hysterical because of all the sports we discussed, I feel like this is the one with the most unwritten rules. Ooh. But this is actually totally legal.
I hear you.
And
And
so
that
when
we
you look
never
at the
thought of this.
productivity, Yeah, like, I'm buying it. Come on. Like, make it more interesting. Get the people going. It's provocative. Let's do it.
Aaron Lenhart, the name of the MIT scientist who was working with the Yankees players. There's a lot in this, though, right? We heard about Giancarlo Stanton having elbow problems because he was using a different bat, and we flagged that. We're like, what does that even mean? And now we're seeing this. Do you think they're going to set the home run record every series and hit 9 home runs every game? I don't know. We'll move on. Buy or sell 3, NBA. The T-Wolves Pistons fight. We saw 5 players ejected and 2 coaches. Bickerstaff and Prigioni were really going after it. Bickerstaff says getting each other's backs is a non-negotiable for the Pistons locker room. George, what do you buy? What do you sell from this?
Tony, I'm selling those who believe that that I believe are being hyperbolic, comparing this to like the malice at the palace, or comparing it to any other issue the NBA may have had with fighting in the 80s or 90s. This is 2 teams who are fighting for positions in their conferences and want to compete at the highest level, and sometimes that escalates, and it escalated in a way that it spilled over into the fans a little bit. You don't want that, and I think Adam Silver will determine that and suspend them. But I have no issues with the type of passion those teams showed yesterday.
Look, the Pistons are one of the best stories in the league this year. Like, they're sitting in the 5th spot, sometimes 4th, depending on what's happening in the Eastern Conference. And you look at post-All-Star break defense, their defense is ranked top 5. They are a tough, gritty, physical team. Now, Dante DiVincenzo, also in New York last year, he ain't no pushover either. This is 2 teams fighting for their lives down the stretch of the season when basketball still matters. That's a good thing.
Junior.
This is what we want, right? This is the thing that we were talking about the NBA lacks. Don't have passion for these type of games in the middle of the season that seemingly don't matter to a lot of people. But this is what we got. We have 2 teams who are primed to be the future of this league, taking the game at the end of March when a lot of people are resting and may not care about these situations, and fighting over fouls and fighting over intensity and trying to make in the playoffs. This is what you want. I don't want them in the...
is a good thing. That's what I'm hearing right now. When if it was the NHL, I turned to Emily Kaplan. What do we have, Emily? They have a parade saying, no, we can't have fighting in the NHL. It dumbs down the game. You hear what they did there? Emily, go ahead.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. What I'm buying is when you have a guy who's nicknamed Beef Stew getting ejected, holding Detroit up like this to the crowd. Detroit basketball is back in a big way. My buddy Mike Moran has worked with this team all season long. Says this is the culture that Bickerstaff has been preaching since preseason. Accountability, standing up for each other, a tough brand of basketball. And as Monica said, they're not just the bad boys. Like, they're a really good basketball team that since January 1st has the 2nd best defensive rating in the NBA. I'm excited to see them in the playoffs. The first time Little Caesars Arena will host a playoff game. I don't know if the Red Wings are going to join them.
Go ahead, George, last word.
J.B. Bickerstaff is the coach of the year. No disrespect to Kenny Atkinson, but that team was already a playoff team.
Cade Cunningham could be an MVP candidate, further down the ballot a little bit.
Yeah, listen. The Pistons have won more games this year than they have in the previous 2 seasons. J.B. deserves
count that as a half a FaceTime. Thank you very much there, George. And thank you, David. Emily Kaplan, Monica McNutt. That is our showdown. Next. Of these 2 chalky McChalkface tournaments we got. 1 versus 2 at each. Texas, TCU, Southern Cal, UConn. You know how we got here with the Longhorns, Madison Booker, and then masterpieces from Hallie Van Lith and Paige Beckers. And the Trojans persevering past Juju Watkins' injury. But what decides tonight's 2 games? Monica McNutt, first to you.
All right, I'm starting in Texas, Tony, and I think the deciding factor is going to be collective experience, including the coaching staff. Madison Booker, Rory Harmon, Taylor Jones, they've been fantastic. But Gary Blair has been to a Final Four. He's won a national championship. That's a big deal. On the other side, I still am sticking with experience. Gino Auriemma, Paige Beckers and company, they've been to national championship games together. You add in Sarah Strong and Azzi Fudd, who I expect to be much better in this next game. I think I got to go experience.
Emily Kaplan.
So I think Texas wins if they use their size to their advantage, but also if they keep it close. 11-0 in 1-digit wins this season. Meanwhile, UConn, they're still the best offensive team, still the best defensive team, but it's all about Paige Beckers coming off her first career 40-point performance. Can she cement her legacy, get that national title? The only thing that's missing from her resume, and I think she's going to carry on that.
That would be a 2 seed in this tournament. All right, so I heard experience over, well, who's the more experienced panelist here? If I looked at the, well, that would be Emily Kaplan then. That's your argument, Monica, but then it plays against you.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Tony. We are very proud to announce that Penn State is finally a hockey school, punching their first ticket to the Frozen Four. As an alum, I had so much fun watching because this is the team that was club hockey just 15 years ago, and it was patient. Guy Gadowski's been this coach the entire time. Didn't have the best record in tournaments, didn't get to the tournament very often, but I love that the athletic tournament department stuck with him. And Sergeyev, I've never seen goaltending like that. That was awesome. So cannot wait for the Frozen Four in St. Louis.
There you go. And now you're off to Ovechkin watch, I imagine, right here as we're trying to get this record before the end of the season. All right. Two things from me. Today is March 31. Tomorrow is April what? Oh, keep your head on a swivel. We're cooking things up.
I'm Woody Page. I'm taking over this show. It's April Fool's Day.
Bow, wow, wow, yippee-yo, yippee-yay.
Around the horn, it's Tony and the Sports Writer.
All right, so that is our April Fools. Oh, get excited. But more important, welcome to the world, Graham Lachlan Timperlake. Congrats to our Bill Barnwell and Erin Timperlake. Look at this baby. Look at this. DVOA already off the charts. We pay loyalty to our new Stat King. That's a face to kiss. Mwah!